Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to have you here. My name's Riggs K, and today we are very excited to have Creators in Residence Kuroi001 and jazzKat show you an IMVU Studio workflow for meshing, texturing, and uploading a product. And Marvelous Designer is going to feature prominently in this workflow, and Marvelous Designer is an amazing tool. So we are very happy to be showing you that. The product will be a pleated skirt, and Creator in Residence jazzKat is going to be providing additional insights about the workflow while Kuroi001 does the demo. And after the workflow demo, Drosselmeyer and Mighty 7 are going to show you some new IMVU Studio features that look very cool. And then all of us will be answering your questions via our Q&A feature. Please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions, and remember to keep your questions on topic and GA friendly. If you have not downloaded the latest IMVU Studio product, you can find it here. I will put it in chat right now. Just need to get to my little chat screen here. Hold on, everybody. Almost there, almost there. And you can also find recordings of our sessions here. Stay tuned while I get that one to you all. All right, recordings of our sessions are here. So speaking of recording, we will be recording this webinar so that creators who are unable to attend the live session can view it later. All right, enough with all of the housekeeping. Let's introduce our Creators in Residence, Kuroi001 and jazzKat. Great to have you here.
Hello, hello. Great to be here today.
Oh, hello. Can't top that greeting.
And let's also say hi to Drosselmeyer and Mighty 7. Hi, guys.
Howdy, everyone. Good to be here.
And Drosselmeyer and Mighty 7 are our technical artists, very talented guys, just like jazzKat and Kuroi001. Okay.
Yes, we pester them often.
Yes, they are definitely worth pestering for sure. Now our Creators in Residence are going to take you through the IMVU Studio, Marvelous Designer, etc., workflow. Let's see if you can share the screen without me unsharing. The test is about to begin.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen now.
Okay, and if not, I can stop sharing and then have you do it.
All right, so do you see my beautiful desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you tidied it up. You tidied it up.
just a bit. Let me just remove this one. All right. So as Riggs K just mentioned, we are going through my workflow, which includes Marvelous Designer and, of course, 3D Studio Max. And then we will try to texture this one just very fast and import into IMVU Studio. So let's just open our Marvelous Designer. This is an amazing tool to create 3D garment by just drawing some kind of patterns. So as you can see, we got everything here. And let me just move this tool. All right, I can't remove the bar.
Oh.
Okay,
that's
I just moved.
Is that the zoom bar?
Yeah, that's the zoom control bar, yeah.
I just move it down for a second. All right, so I will just show you quickly how the Marvelous Designer works and behaves. So let's just draw, let's say, a square, or you can draw anything you want. And as you can see, in this 2D viewport, we have just square that we just draw. And in 3D viewport, we have a 3D representation of this pattern. And if you press spacebar or just here to simulate, let's just do it. As you can see, it just simulates real life fabric. So it looks nice, and the faster your PC is, the faster it will just simulate. All right, so enough with the introduction of Marvelous Designer. let's just import and open our scene with IMVU avatar. Let's go to our folder and open this one. So, oh, that's not the, this is the skirt one. So we are going to make this skirt. Let's just remove everything.
So this is a custom avatar shape. Yes.
Yeah,
custom body
it's
shape.
almost the same as IMVU, just it looked a bit different.
Yeah.
All right, so you just have to export this avatar from your 3D app. Is it Blender or 3D Studio Max or Maya? It doesn't matter. You just export still avatar without any animations and import to Marvelous Designer, as you can see. All right, so as you can see, we have the avatar and the 2D viewport with the silhouette of the avatar. And now let's go to the tool that we are going to use. In this case, we are going to make a splitted skirt or skirt for our avatar. So let's choose an Ellipse Tool from our pattern tool and click and drag onto 2D viewport. And if you hold Shift, you won't have to worry about the size of the this pattern. You can, of course, scale it anytime you want. And as you can see, we already have the representation of the pattern here in 3D viewport. You can click here and change it to wireframe on surface to see the wireframe. And as you can see, we have a lot of triangles, and we usually want to just have a square one. So just right click on this pattern and go to remeshing. So click it, and as you can see, we have nice even topology of this ellipse. Now let's just punch a hole in this ellipse. So now go to internal lines and go to internal ellipse. Click it and do the same as we did with the ellipse, full ellipse, and just hold Shift to make it even and just let it go. Now go to transform pattern, and we want to center this hole. So click on it and try to make it center, make it just in the center of our ellipse. All right, now while still selected the internal ellipse, right click on it and click cut. As you can see, we already have a hole, and let's just get rid of this internal circle because we don't need this one. Okay, now to make more pleats or folds on our skirt, we are going to get rid of some geometry from this ellipse. So go again to internal lines and internal polygon line, select this one, click on this dot and just drag to another side of this ellipse and click again. And when you press enter, it should be approved. The line should be here, and do this the same on the other side of this ellipse and click again. Okay, now we have to just cut those lines like we did with the circle, with the inner circle. So select the line and then again cut. Repeat the same step here, cut, and as you can see, we just cut a chunk of the ellipse and delete the unused and not needed chunk. All right, now we have to just bring the ellipse and the pattern closer to the avatar. So just click on it in 3D viewport and use the gizmo, as you can see, to rotate and move it anywhere you want. So let's do this.
So a quick question.
Sure.
Do you always have to cut that segment out? What does that do specifically?
This is like making like tailors make from half circle or make from triangles. You have to just, take a fashion magazine and see how they do this in real life, because this just behaves like real life tailors work. So go to fashion magazine and see how they create their patterns, let's say for a skirt, for a dress, And
Right.
you can, of course, create a skirt from a rectangle, right? It's
Yeah.
up to you, but it will look different and
Right.
it will behave. The topology will be, of course, different in this case as well. All right. And when it comes to, yeah, it's very interesting. And you have to just educate yourself on a different field. All right. So when you want to move the pattern to selected area, you can, of course, use something like arrangement points, which they will just snap the pattern onto the points, as you can see. But in this case, we don't have any point here. You can manually add them at any time you want in options. So to do this, you can check our live streams because we dive deeper into the Marvelous Designer and try to discover all the features of this amazing tool. All right, so let's go to the main feature of Marvelous Designer, which is sewing. So go to this sewing machine icon, click on it, and choose segment sewing. Now you just go like a normal tailor would do. So you just sew the two edges of this, let's say, skirt. So select one edge, click on it, and then navigate to another edge and click again. So pay attention to those small lines. They should always be aligned. So if you have them at bottom, the second one should be at bottom as well. And now let's try the skirt and see how it behaves. So let's simulate this one. I'm pressing spacebar on my keyboard. As you can see, the real life simulation made something like a skirt, right? It's not, we are not there yet, but we are close. So let's just undo the step and let's create something like a belt that will just support our skirt. Go to the pattern tool and choose rectangle. And let's draw another pattern here. So you can draw it at any place you want. The closer to avatar, it will just appear in the similar place, right? You can see it's very similar position of the rectangle. Okay, right click and go to remeshing again. Let's move it somewhere here. And let's just make it a bit smaller. You can edit the patterns at any time, even if they are just sewn together. You can do this whenever you want. Okay, select the pattern and copy this one. You can Control C, Control V, and it's gonna paste this pattern. All right, so let's move this the second chunk of our belt to the back of our avatar.
See how they make
Now
clothing in 3D?
All right, so we have the pattern with inverted normals, as you can see, right? This is grayed out area. We should flip the normals. So right click and click flip normal. Or let's undo this one and select this again, and you can just rotate this. It's up to you whichever you choose. But it's helpful to know both ways of doing this. All right, so let's try to make this belt working. So let's bring this to life. So as I showed you a few seconds ago that you can sew it in 2D pattern window, we can do this thing in 3D pattern windows, 3D window. So let's go to the sewing machine here and click segment sewing. And let's repeat the steps for both sides. All right, as you can see, let's just test it out. Right. As you can see, it nicely embodies the avatar. All right, let's just undo this, and we are going to save the file. The more saves, the better, right? Because you can always return to the previous state if something bad happens.
Save early and often. That's my motto.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so now we have to just sew the two segments of our belt to our skirt. To do this, you could use segment sewing, but as you can see, we have two segments here and three segments here. We could, of course, remove or merge this segment, but we have amazing tool like free sewing. it allows us just to freely sew the pattern wherever we want to stop. Let's stop here. As you can see, I stopped in the middle of the middle segment. All right, and let's just repeat the step for the back segment. It should work like this. Because we have crossed this one, you usually avoid this, but as you can see, it should work here. Let's just simulate, and yeah, we already have a skirt, as you can see, in a matter of a few minutes. You can always drape it by just dragging your cursor. As you can see, I'm pinching it somewhere here, and let's do this a little on the back. All right. So as you can see, we have well, quite nice topology, but you can always increase or decrease number of vertices in this mesh. Let's go to transform pattern tool, or you can press A on your keyboard and select the skirt part and go to the property editor, and let's choose particle distance. So the lower particle distance is, the higher density mesh becomes. As you can see, it is quite high poly now. You usually avoid this for IMVU because it may cause problems, and of course it increases the size of an entire mesh. So let's just try to simulate this one. Of course, it looks better, right? And it behaves just like a real life fabric. Let's just change the view to normal texture, or to normal view without the mesh, without the grid. All right, so another feature of this Marvelous Designer is that we can add more fabric. So let's just add fabric, and let's just change the color of this fabric. So let's just make it red in this case. You can, of course, import your textures. You can import seamless textures, whichever you want. You can import normal maps, displacement, opacity maps, and a lot of other features that we are covering in our live streams. All right, so another very important feature of Marvelous Designer is presets, our presets. So let's go to physical property and choose preset. As you can see, we are going to change the preset of fabric too. So let's just apply this to our ellipse. So select the ellipse, choose fabric 2, and we have applied this to our ellipse. Now select fabric again, fabric 2 in this case. Let's go back to the presets and check out the 3D window while I cycle through all these different materials. As you can see, we have cotton. Let's just apply this, and I will press simulate, and it changes properties of this skirt. So we have cotton. Let's go and change to denim, right? Some changes may be subtle, but some changes will be just very, very big. So let's just find something. Oh yeah, we have just more pleats, more folds, and of course, the higher density mesh, the more folds you get here. Let's just decrease the density in this case to 20. I think that should be fair enough for IMVU, and it still looks great in my opinion. All right, so let's just quickly change to something else. All right, but I think we are satisfied with this one. So now let's generate a UV mapping, because you can do this in Marvelous Designer. You don't have to do this in Blender or 3D Studio. Let's choose this arrow, click on it, and go to UV editor. Of course, you can do a lot of different things in Marvelous Designer, like sculpting, and there are just many different tools to choose from. All right, so let's focus on UV mapping. So as you can see, we have the map here. You can change the view from solid to wire and select everything, right click, fit to UV, click OK, and you can of course change it or move it to any place you and of course increase the size. All right, so and of course you have multiple slots, so you don't have to use only one here. All right, let's just make a snapshot of this skirt, of this UV map. So press this icon, save the path. So you can save it like a skirt UV.png. So save and save again. And you already saved the map. Let's just return to our 2D pattern window. And I think let's just save. I think we are just done here. So we can export, unless there are just some questions here for me from our friends.
No, I mean, I guess so. The UV is the shape that you've made the skirt from.
Yeah, it's the same as the pattern in this
Right.
window, right? You can compare them here and UV editor. It's the same one.
Right. Okay.
All right, so let's do the export. To make skirts, I will just mention quickly, you can use this tool to make pleats, and you can sew them together in this tool, but we don't have enough time to cover everything. So let's go with this skirt we just made very quickly. So go to File, Export, and choose OBJ selected or FBX, whichever you prefer. I always use OBJ, so I will go with this one. So let's go and save it as OBJ and skirt learning session. So should be fine. And save it. Okay, so now we have a few options to choose from. The first one is just select patterns. So you can choose which pattern you want to export, but we just selected them into the viewport. Next one is just exporting avatars, which we are not going to do. You can, of course, create buttons, buttonholes, and zippers, a lot of different items that you can find in garment. And of course, they will just increase the size of the mesh. The next one is exporting a single object, because when you select multiple objects, it will just unweld your sewing. So we want to avoid this. So select single object and select thin, because if you select thick, it will just create another layer of topology of geometry for this mesh, increasing the size of entire mesh. And select weld, of course, because we want to weld all the seams we just created. All right, and you can, of course, export maps here, textures. You can choose whichever you want to export. You can scale and the entire mesh here. And of course, the last one, because I'm just skipping this part, you don't have to do this, saving as just files, or you can zip everything into one folder. And just if you are satisfied with this one, hit OK. And it's gonna take a few seconds. All right, and we exported the mesh. Let's just save the file, and we can switch to 3D Studio Max in my case. So let's just leave it. All right. Where is my? All right, I will just leave it for a second and turn on Max.
So is there a difference between exporting it as an object versus an FBX?
Sometimes the object might be inverted. I mean, you will have to adjust the axis of the object. So when I export as OBJ, I never had this problem. So I usually go like this, as you saw. All right. So we have our 3D Studio here. And I can't close this. I just close it. All right. So let's start with new file as a 3D Studio Max, and go to your toolkit. If you have already installed the toolkit.
Ooh, toolkit.
Yeah, that's a nice feature from IMVU. So let's just click on it. And as you can see, we got some error. Don't mind this one. the toolkit is still in development. So let's just reinstall it. It's very quick, just a few clicks and we have the toolkit back. So click on the toolkit and as you can see, you can create rooms, furniture, attachment tool, and you can create clothing. And we are going with clothing today. So click on clothing, click append clothing file. And as you can see, let me just change the viewports. And as you can see, we have female avatar. Let's just select female. And now let's just save the file. Save as, and we have learning sessions here. And we have scared learning. Let's go with this naming convention. All right, so now we have to just import our obj file. So go to import, choose your folder, and we have the obj scared here. So choose import. As you can see, we imported the scared at the same place as we had this scared in Marvelous Designer. So you don't have to just adjust this. It's not flipped anyway. It's
so that's the default.
nice.
That's the unadjusted avatar that the skirt's loaded into, isn't it? As well.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. But it works, right? You don't have to do
No,
anything.
it's just
Right. So now we have to just weight the skirt to the avatar. So to do this, you just have to press one button. And as you can see, you have skin modifier applied to the skirt. But well, it would be too easy just to do this, right? So let's just check it out. And we have crash.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's the
Live
evil laugh of the
TV
crash.
Yeah. And this is live TV. Don't mind us. It happens sometimes, even to the best.
And it wasn't the toolkit.
Yep.
We hope.
Yeah.
So as you saw, we have to just weight the skirt. So we have to just wait 1 second. Let me just focus on one thing at the moment. So skilled learning. And as you can see, we can return to the toolkit one more time. All right. And clothing tool. And now you can just paint weights, right? When you want to just adjust the weighting of the avatar of the skirt to behave, to move along with the, in this case, legs and torso. So to do this, just use your paint weights tool. Of course, choose your bones from here, whichever you want to just edit. We are not going to cover this one because this is the most time-consuming things when it comes to creating avatar.
Yep.
Creating meshes is just becoming very easy, but weighting is the most tedious part. And of course, you can increase the size of this, and you can do this by change the weighting.
Watch out for the bone limits as well now.
Yeah. And you can pause the avatar, so you can test this. We are not going to do this because we are just going to avoid another crash because it might happen. So let's just check this again and limit bones. Click on it just to limit bones to 4 because this is the limit when it comes to IMVU Studio. And if you are satisfied with your result, just click export. As you can see, clothing exported as scared learning. Yeah. Let's just save the file and you can open the output directory.
Oh, there it is.
And
it worked.
just check it. Yeah. So, okay, now I will try to quickly jump into another amazing tool that will just allow you to texture your mesh. So, yeah, you probably guessed it's Substance Painter. It's not Photoshop. Of course, you can use those tools to just make more changes into your texture. But let's just import our mesh. In this case, go to File, New, Select, and let's go to our learning session. And let's choose Scared Learning. Well, you can choose this one because we didn't change the geometry. We have separate files for this, but it's okay. And how substance work? You just drag and drop textures. As you can see, we have this viewport full of textures, so you can drag and drop them here. As you can see, you create amazing textures in just matter of few clicks. And you can just, of course, mix and match those textures to create something that you just want to make. So take your time while creating. You can create paint layers here. Let me just switch the toolbar. Okay, let's just create paint layer. As you can see, you can draw. So if you have a drawing tablet with stylus, it will just bring your textures onto another level. All right, so let's just create a texture and that we can export. Let's remove those because we don't need them. All right, as you can see, we got nicely textured skirt. I chose this texture because I'm going to show you that we can generate normal maps, shyness maps within Adobe Substance Painter. So go to File, if you are satisfied with your choice, go to File, Export Textures, and choose, I usually go with this one because it exports your normal maps and many more. So choose Export, go to Open Output Directory, and as you can see, we have just created normal maps for the skirt, including the texture. You can use those as shyness maps, and we have base color, which you might be surprised. Why don't we have this one? So to generate the texture that you can see here, let's just go to File, Export, and choose 2D view. So it's gonna generate the texture based on the 2D view. Export, again, open output directory, and you can, as you can see, we have the texture here with all the shadows, lightning baked onto.
Yeah,
onto
that would be good for like if you wanted to make a version for a classic client where a classic client doesn't have like shininess and normal and all that.
Yes, I mean you can use either in a studio. You can just play along with them and choose the effect that you want to go with. But it's of course up to the creator. The only limit is your imagination. All right, so let's just quickly close the Substance Painter. We are not going to save this one, so discard the save, and let's go to IMVU Studio. So to import our file, go to this icon, plus icon, go to women clothing and bottoms, because we are importing skirt. So we have empty female bottom, derive, click on it, derive. And I already created the skirt with proper weighting of camera, because as I said, we are just in limited time. You can see our struggle in live streams, so be sure to see this. So, okay, let's go to importer, import Fbx and learning session, and this is skirt final. Okay, and you have the important Fbx import settings here. So setup, as you can see, we don't have to change anything here. So just go next. We have just our base texture. So next, review. And if everything is okay, just hit import. And it should take a few seconds. And as you can see, we just imported our skirt into IMVU Studio. So go to component, and we can just import our textures very quickly. And we have our materials. So, I mean, we can try with base texture. Let's just import our normal map and shyness. And let's just make it double-sided. And let's just lower this to 20. And hit preview. And as you can see, we have our skirt textured. As you can see, we have shadows, highlights, something here, something happens here. We have normal maps. You can, of course, try to import the texture that with baked lightning. So let's just check it out quickly. And it looks different, right? So whichever effect you prefer, this is more shiny and more metallic. So it's up to you which effect you want to achieve. All right, and I think that's it when it comes to importing. I will just quickly jump into let me just choose my clothing. And I will show you the features of IMVU Studio. So just to convince you that it's amazing tool and you can create a lot of different, well, not only garments, not only clothing part, but also accessories. As you can see, I try to use all the features that are currently available in IMVU Studio. As you can see, we have shyness, we have iridescence here, and I will just mention that all the clothing you see here, except boots, were just made in Marvelous Designer. All right, and you can of course have emission, so light emission. As you can see, we have shiny glasses and everything else. So be sure to use those features. You can easily utilize them and create some amazing outfits. All right, I think that's everything from me. Your friendly neighborhood creator, Kroi001. So thank you for your attention, and back to you guys.
Yeah, actually, we have a couple, I think, questions related to what you've just demoed. One is from Caroline L. Think this is, she's asking, I meant the particle distance, and I think it's related to a previous question she was asking about for the smaller lines that were just talked about, what is the number recommended for IMVU? And I think she's talking about
subdivision.
Yeah. That's created in Marvelous. Do you have a recommended number to use for the particles?
That's the subdivision stuff, Kuroi.
Subdivision?
Yeah, you know when you the triangulation of the mesh.
Yeah.
It's that number. I mean, when we were doing the live streams, the default is 10, if I remember correctly.
No. I mean, I recommend 20 if you have if you want to use Marvelous Designer and particle distance. I usually go with 20 unless I want to really create some, you know, very subtle details that users focus on. So I go to 10, but that's very rare. I usually go with 20 when it comes to particle distance.
Got it.
That increases the density of the mesh so that the structure of the mesh becomes.
And when you import, such high poly mesh into, let's say, Blender or 3D Studio Max, you will spend hours and hours waiting and checking if every vertices just work. Perfectly.
So in that case, you'd want to use that really high detailed poly mesh as a mesh for generating your topology, and then you want to retopolize that to a low poly version. Okay.
Yeah, because you could also use that to, I mean, if you really wanted to, if you didn't have Substance Painter, cough, cough, if you didn't have that, you could use a high-res version of the mesh to bake your normal map and your texture maps, basically. So you could use it that way as well.
Yeah, you can use high poly mesh and then just create texture, right, in Substance or any just app you use, and then import the high quality texture onto low poly mesh. Yeah, that should do the work.
And another question here. This is from Meg. They're asking, is this program strictly for cloth-based items, or could you feasibly use Marvelous Designer for like armor or plastic types of clothing items?
You can, because the latest version features something like a solidify, so you can solidify your 2D pattern or 3D pattern in this case, and it is just like a stiff material. And by combining this solidify with material presets, I didn't mention that you can modify every preset so to be let's say more stiffer. And yeah, you can create armor. You can even go ahead and try to create parts of furniture like cushions, curtains, and so on. Yeah.
There's another question, but it's Blender related, and it's kind of related to the weight painting. Anonymous is asking that they use Blender, and there's a feature in there called transfer weights. So when you're doing your weight painting in Blender, there are various tools that make that process a little easier. But there's a caveat. When you transfer weights from, let's say, the base avatars to a clothing item, if they're not exactly the same, Blender has to interpolate or interpret the difference between the structures of the two meshes. So although you can transfer weights and make that process easier, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be easier, because you could end up with a bit more of a mess that you have to clean up because of the difference between the two version, well, the base mesh, which is the avatar, and your clothing item, which might be a higher detail. So that difference can cause you more problems than you think you're solving by using a tool like transfer weights. So that was for Anonymous.
This is sort of a little bit off topic, but the learning sessions that you guys did, because you did some very in-depth learning sessions, we will be posting those to our previous learning sessions site. They're not up yet, but they are available on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
And do you have a link to those, or
good
would
question.
that be easy? Would that be easy to get?
That's that. I think they're all being posted to IMVU's official YouTube and Twitch.
Okay.
You mean the live streams?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can put the information in chat.
Yes.
Yeah, we do them every Monday. So
every Monday.
Yeah, you can just see them live on Monday.
Cool.
So be sure to
feel free
them
to
out.
Yeah, feel free to put the link to the live ones in there, and then I'll put the links to the recordings.
Here's a question about Anonymous about textures and substance. They're asking, can we get more textures into Substance Painter so we can use for our creations, or just the default textures? You're just using the defaults, right? You can create your own.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of defaults, but I have a lot of imported textures created by myself. You can purchase pre-made textures, smart materials. You can create masks. You can create folds in Substance Painter as well. So I mean, the features are just limitless, and the textures as well. And of course, you can, as I said when I was just showcasing the tool, you can combine the tools. Most of the textures are seamless, so you can increase or decrease tiling of the texture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just following up on Anonymous and the weight painting, transfer weights. They're just asking whether it's only appropriate if the faces are almost mapped to the body shape. That's the simple answer is yes, but you don't necessarily need to. This is just a question of just be aware of the fact that can happen. So you might be making more problems for yourself by using that tool. Just be aware of it. But you can use it. You know, nobody's going to prevent you from doing that. But just be aware that if you do use tools like that for shortcuts, that you might be making more problems for yourself later on.
I will just mention that in 3D Studio Max, there is an amazing modifier called Skin Wrap, which works similarly that you just described, but you can change a lot of options there, so just to match the movement of the avatar. So be sure to check this if you are using 3D Studio Max.
Cool.
Someone was asking, another anonymous, I don't know if it's the same anonymous, please could you teach us how to add a layer below the skirt, for example, to cover body parts? So that's
a good one for another learning session.
yeah.
Sure,
do you guys cover that in the learning sessions you've done?
Not
or live streams?
yet. Not yet,
but I think that's a good material for another stream.
Because that's how clothing interfaces with the the avatar, the body parts itself. Yeah.
To be honest, when I create, I always add the body part of the avatar to the imported mesh. So is it a bottom part or top?
Well, you
matter.
have to, don't you? Because you're using a custom body shape. Yeah.
Yep. And I also use custom weighting.
Yes.
So I recreated everything from scratch in my case.
Yeah, and if you're doing like a layered clothing product, that's actually something we have a tutorial scheduled to do. It's kind of an important one, because if you already have a skin tight mesh product and you want to just put something layered over it, that's something that a lot of creators like to do, and we want to cover that in a future tutorial.
I know we quickly wanted to show some of the IMVU Studio features. We're at like 13 minutes before the end.
Oh, are we? Goodness.
Yeah.
I know you guys.
That was fast.
That was fast. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Shall I do it?
Yeah, do it.
Do it.
Do it live.
Okay.
Do it live.
All right.
ahead.
Yeah. If there are questions that are left at the end, maybe we can handle them, and if not, we'll definitely answer them offline and post them with the repost of this broadcast.
We can try to answer them within the time allotted, and if not, we'll just answer them in the article that will feature the recorded session of this learning session.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Usually it's Tauntaun who's doing this part, so I'm filling in for him today in giving you some sneak peeks at what's coming. And without further delay, let me share my screen here. This will stop. Yep. And go. All right, can you all see this? Studio is running?
Not yet.
There
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now I see.
Oh, yay. Okay. So the first thing I want to demo is something that's coming soon. It's actually available for alpha testers right now, and that's called Convex Reflections. We wanted to put reflections on everything, but due to how this works, we are limiting it to avatar products only. So like accessories and clothing. And what it really does is, I'll zoom in on these glasses. I've applied, this is actually a product that Tauntaun made. It's going really slow because I've got Zoom running. But if you look at these glasses, you can see that what's on the surface of the glasses is a simulated or a reflection of the scene in which the avatar is occupied. And so how this works is a cube map is rendered based on the avatar's location, and then that cube map is applied when you turn on Convex Reflections. And the Convex Reflections is a switch down here in the material settings panel for this material that's applied to the glasses. And you can adjust the amount. This is turned down, but if I was to turn this all the way up, it would become almost a perfect reflected. Let me hit preview. Surface. There it goes. Now you're not getting, you're getting the full value of that reflection. But it's a really cool effect. I think this is going to be a game changer for avatar products. And like I said, the reason that it's only available for avatar products is because if you apply this to a furniture, you'd get the actual furniture that it's applied to in the render. So it would be a reflection of the object itself. Another reason is it's based on the avatar's location. So as you moved around, the reflection on that object would change based on the avatar's location. And so it's not, unfortunately, suited for things like mirrors. It would be really cool if it worked on floors, but it doesn't. But a small step in the right direction, I think. Let's see, next item is what we call local ambient lighting. Now, what local ambient is, I'm going to switch to this other room here. So
nice.
here's my Cornell box to test out various things. So what this room is it's basically a box. It's got 4 walls or 6 walls, 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. And the walls, floor, and ceiling are white. And then there's a red and a green wall to the left and right of the avatar. The reason why the ceiling doesn't look white is because there's actually a light sitting right above this white square here. And so the only light in here is coming straight down, and you can see it's got a pretty harsh effect on the avatar in the scene. And if I turn on local ambient, which is available to rooms, or will be available to rooms over the environment setting, there'll be this setting called local ambient. And when I turn this on, watch what happens. Oh, I have to pick preview. Uh-oh.
Is it? Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
There it is. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a little bit.
It's a potato computer.
Yeah. So what's happened is it's now lighting the avatar based on what the ambient qualities of the room are. And in this case, it's combining it with the light and the white walls, the white floor, and then the green and red walls. And so if you zoom in on this avatar, you can see that there's now a green hue on the avatar on the one side that's closest to the green wall, and a red hue on the avatar on the side of the avatar closest to the red wall. Again, this is kind of like a cube map. It takes a render of where the avatar is located. And actually, I don't know if it's where the avatar is located or just the room itself from the center of the room. But in any case, what it does is it takes those values and then applies them to the coloring of the lighting on the avatar.
But it's not just the red and the green, is it? It's also considering the gray or the white.
Correct.
So
yes.
It's like every surface is influencing the sort of the ambient, because that's obviously not the standard flat lit ambient light that we normally have access to.
Exactly right. And I'll point out too that there's only one true light in this room. So all this is being generated off the room surface itself. This is slated to be released. Oh, one thing about Convex Reflections, this is coming up soon. Like this should be released within maybe by the end of September. Local ambient is probably going to be maybe later this month, maybe next month. And when it is released, it'll be on by default for new room products, but then off by default for all existing products. So you don't have to worry about this suddenly changing the lighting of a room that you've already published. But it will be on. So this local ambient will be on when you start with a new room.
So how does ambient light actually affect this effect? So if you had an ambient light value, does that also influence?
Yeah, well, let's try it. Let's try turning, let's go like 128.
Yeah, a nice mid gray.
I was thinking more like a nice mid
Oh,
pink.
oh,
A nice, it should be, yeah, there you go. Let's try that. Kind of see where this goes. Yeah.
Well,
So
nice.
it's kind of overpowering the local
yes.
local ambient. Oh, but look at this. It doesn't, the ambient
It is
light.
tinting it.
It is tinting. Yeah, it is. I'm seeing a little bit of pink, like on the.
So is it now? So that looks like it's now calculating the pink.
Yeah, there's a little
color of the white as the local ambient color now. So it's combined. It's essentially combining this.
Yes. Yeah. So you're getting the green local ambient,
Nice.
the white local ambient, and then in the white local ambient, you start to see some of that pink.
Yes. Yeah.
So actually, what I think might be happening in reality is the ambient light that's in the room is affecting the walls,
Yes.
which is then being used to calculate the local ambient, affecting the avatar.
Yeah.
This would be a question for the engineer.
Yeah. No, but that's super cool.
Yeah. Let's see.
Because it has so much more depth than just. I mean, it's still ambient bounced light, but it has so much more depth than just ambient light on its own, which is just a flat lit.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. So that's local ambient. The next thing I wanted to demo or show you, actually I can't quite demo it because it's not running yet, is something called color grading. And color grading is going to be, think of color grading as a cinematic effect. It's a post effect, so it's applied to the whole view as rendered by the IMVU renderer. So think of it as like the matrix green effect. So like when you're in the Matrix movie, everything's kind of got this greenish hue to it. It's heavily used in film, but we're going to be adding this feature to Studio and to all next rendering platforms. We're actually it's slated to come out like next year, for Q1 of next year, and mainly because we have to get all platforms up to running the same code, so it works on all platforms. But it works basically like this, and I'll show you how I made these images. These I just took the basic. I think this is the PID 512, the beachhead basic room. And I just did a screenshot of it and I brought it into Studio. You'll notice this little bar up at the top right here. This is the lookup table or the CLET. I won't go into too much detail on this, but this is sort of what is being modified and is applied to the rendered scene once color grading is in effect. So I went into Photoshop and I tinted this just using Photoshop filters, and was able to get like a greenish tinted effect, or this one was called late sunset effect. And this is kind of the effect, or this should be the effect that you'd be seeing when you do color grading. And we will be supplying, I think, some preset color gradings that you can use. And I think the plan is also to allow you to modify and do your own color grading. And how I did this particular one was in Photoshop. I took the screen grab, and I went to on the layer. I added an adjustment layer to this, and you could use any one of these, but I used color lookup. So this is actually what we're doing, and I chose this late sunset color lookup, and that applied this effect to the overall render or scene. And so essentially in Studio, this little strip here is what would be used to apply this effect to your rendered scene. As I mentioned, you can, you don't have to use the color lookup in Photoshop. You could use any kind of tinting program or any tinting feature like color balance, brightness levels, any one of these that will affect this strip bar up here. And then you use that bar in Studio. We're not 100% sure on how this workflow will go, but in general, this is the technical demo behind how this works. But that's color grading. And like I said, this is supposed to be out Q1 of next year, but it might be to the alpha testers sooner. Let's see, the last thing I wanted to show, and this is another one that's we're slated to come out hopefully soon, is called simulated rim lighting. And let me go to my other slide here. So this is an exciting one for me. I think this is going to be a really cool one. What this is going to allow you to do is select a color to be used to simulate sort of a backlit effect. And so this, when you're on a curved surface like this cylinder, there's a point where you've got this turning edge where it hits a hard edge where it's now, you go from a face that's facing you to a face that's facing away. And this is the rim area. And this effect will allow you to do different things and affect that rim color. The thing that I think is most exciting about this, not only could you do this for a color, but you could change the alpha. So you could do something like this, where as you get close to the edge of something, instead of seeing the hard edge, you will actually see it fade to be transparent, which will allow you to do things like simulate light cones. So if you had a light that had a piece of like a geometry that was a cone coming off of the light, and normally you'd have a very hard edge for that.
Oh, God rays.
Yeah, you could totally
God rays. Yeah.
You could use it for that, and then you have this nice soft edge to your light light geometry. So that's rim lighting. I don't know when this is slated to come out. I see. It could be Q4 as well, but we're not 100% sure. So maybe later this year. And that's about all I had to demo. The only other thing that I wanted to announce was that very soon, Room Deco 2, which is currently available in desktop, is getting implemented for Studio. So we'll have the same Room Deco 2 features that you can get on desktop is now going to be in Studio. And I think that's about all I had.
Awesome. We are about 4 minutes over, but if you guys want to, you can answer any of the questions that look fairly straightforward. You could answer them now, or we can try to get to them and add them to the article.
Creators don't ask straightforward questions. This guy now.
Yeah, let's take a look. I wasn't watching the question Q&A feed while I was talking, but we can take a quick glance through it.
Sure. Maybe I will say a few things about the Marvelous Designer thing, about the particle distance, because if you want to create very high quality mesh with a lot of wrinkles and folds, well, you can, let's say, go with 10 particle distance, the number 10, and then retopologize the mesh, right? So if you're using a 3D Studio Max 2021 and above, there is a retopology modifier there. So it can decrease the number of vertices in the mesh. In Blender, there is decimate, something like this, right? jazzKat.
Yes, sorry, I was just reading the questions.
No problem.
These are not simple questions. They are not. These are quite, Sorry.
So no problem. So technically you can create high poly mesh in Marvel's Designer and just then lower the number of vertices in 3D Max, Blender, or external
Yes,
applications.
it's best to do. I mean, yeah, the workflow would be that you want to be making your high res. If you want to make high res, you do it in Marvelous Designer. When you get that imported into your Blender, your Max, or your Maya, that's where you need to start looking at reducing the poly count and tidying up the mesh, because the one thing that we haven't covered here is that Marvelous Designer isn't a 3D meshing app, so it doesn't optimize meshes. You can do it, but it's not as easy to do in Marvelous Designer as it is to do in
I mean, you can
air quotes
create
proper.
you can create new topology based on
Yes.
your Marvelous Designer mesh. In Marvelous Designer, there is a tool dedicated to this, but it won't give such good effects as 3D apps like Blender or 3D Studio Max or Maya.
Yeah, so watch out for that. If you do go down that route of doing high res in Marvelous Designer and then just bringing that into your 3D app of choice, you may end up having quite a bit of cleanup to do if you want to try and use those meshes. There's some questions. Amilcar has got an interesting one that's related to what you were just showing, Drosselmeyer. I know that mobile and desktop sometimes differ from one to another. The convex and local ambient features will make a better experience for both, ? And will it affect the flow? Because sometimes rooms are heavy. Oh yes, because it's an effect. How much is it going to influence performance, or how much would they?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't answer the performance question because I really don't know at this point. As far as I know, it will be available. It should be available on all platforms, as I understand it. That would be a great Tauntaun question,
but not classic though, right? These aren't things that are available.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, these are all next platform features.
Yeah. Mariana has have you considered to add projected shadows to avatars and objects?
Yeah, okay. I was gonna I will answer. So Eamon also answered a question, or asked a question, will you be adding the shadow features soon? And I can answer both those questions.
Woohoo.
Yes, it's so I've been here 2 years and we've had it. It's not working well.
No.
We have it, but it's not working well, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to dedicate the engineering resources to get it working well. But it's a very high priority for us, and it seems like an obvious one. And yes, we want to add it. Don't know how soon.
So there's the answer to that one.
Oh, actually, Tauntaun just let me know that Convex Reflections, those should not affect performance.
Oh, okay, cool.
The images that are used to generate them are very small. So even though it generates a cube map, that cube map is in terms of size, it's very small.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, one of the big reasons why shadows are taking a while is shadows are tend to be very expensive in terms of performance, and we need to make sure we get that right, because it's that would definitely negatively impact users if we didn't get the shadows right and performing well.
Yes, I'm just imagining, 50,000 poly hairstyles.
Exactly.
With shadows. So I mean, when everyone's asking about shadows, they're thinking about the avatars as a sort of an abstract, but they're not thinking about the details of clothing that's hundreds of thousands of polygons, hair that's 50, 60,000 polygons.
Mhm.
And you've got to, you know, to generate shadows from all of that mesh data
Mhm.
is just, it must be a nightmare.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's why
precisely.
you always should optimize your mesh before
Yes.
uploading to Studio.
Mhm.
Remember
very-
about that.
Yeah, very good point.
Any other questions we want to answer or that we can answer now, or shall we tackle the rest in our recap?
I think we can tackle the rest in the recap.
Okay, awesome.
Well, I could tackle one more. There's one from Anonymous. So PC users getting the same features as IMVU in the future. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's when the features I talked about will be released and available across all platforms and on all devices, as far as I know.
That's all the next engine stuff, isn't it?
Correct.
So
Right. Correct.
Website, mobile, desktop beta, Studio.
That's correct.
Classic.
Yeah.
Great job, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for attending and asking amazing questions. And also, thank you for hanging out with us for an extra 12 minutes.
Mhm.
I think we've got it. So thank you, jazzKat, Kiroi 001, Drosselmeyer, Mighty 7, Tauntaun. Have I missed anybody? Great to have you teaching us all the good stuff about creating. And we will talk to you soon again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.